समझ नहीं आ रहा अपने सैलरी इंक्रीमेंट का क्या करूं।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है, अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स के एसआईपी का टॉप अप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
क्या समझ में नहीं आया।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है, अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स का एसआईपी टॉप अप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
अब समझा।
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
Donald Trump has had somewhat of an emotional meltdown at the meeting between Xi Jinping, Narendra Modi, and Vladimir Putin at the SCO Summit in China. Taking to Truth Social, Trump says it looks like we have lost India and Russia to deepest, darkest China. Let's bring that screenshot up now as we begin this special broadcast. There you can see it. Trump doesn't usually share pictures on his Truth Social posts. They're usually in all caps, ending with "Thank you for your attention to this matter." But this time the American president has taken the effort to share a photograph. And the photograph he's shared is of Prime Minister Modi alongside Putin and Xi Jinping. And there's the post. Looks like we've lost India and Russia to quote unquote deepest, darkest China. May they have a long and prosperous future together. Sounding almost, some might say, like a jilted lover. And not quite acknowledging the fact that his own war on India has a lot to do, not everything to do, but a lot to do, perhaps, with this recalibration of the world order. I'm Barkha Dutt. You're with the Mojo Story. In the last few days, the images out of China have caused a virtual meltdown in Western media. These images, the power huddle, as I call it, of Modi, Putin, and Xi Jinping, followed by China's display of military might at a parade that, by the way, India chose not to attend, are evoking strong reactions in Washington. And now we're seeing a reaction from Donald Trump himself. He is saying that India and Russia have been lost to deepest, darkest China. Now, what does he mean by he's losing Russia? Russia was never apparently on his side, or is he saying that it was? It's a confused statement like many of Trump's statements. And to decode it, let me introduce our guests on the program today as we look at this latest rant, if it can be called that, from Trump, though it has more the sounds of a sulk. Former General Officer Commanding of the 15th Corps, General Hasnain, is with us. Veteran journalist, senior foreign correspondent Padma Sundarji is with us as well. Good to see you, Padma. And also joining us is veteran diplomat, Ambassador Sajjanhar. Great to see all of you. Let's get first comments. Let's bring up that post again. This much I'll say, Trump keeps us entertained. Great copy for journalists, but serious repercussions for geopolitics. Now he's saying, General Hasnain, it looks like we have lost India and Russia to deepest, darkest China. Your first thoughts on this?
First of all, thank you, Barkha, but I repeat your own words. It's a sulk. To my mind, I mean, the first perception which appears is it's a huge sulk, and we know that Trump has a habit of sulking once in a while here and there. I've been observing Peter Navarro over the last week, and you can realize from that itself how the setup has been. You know, it seems as if selected people have been set up to carry out a kind of a narrative warfare against India, impinge on our minds, on our leadership, on that of our people, tell the world in general, see, this is what India is doing, and that's one of the reasons why we have gone, overboard on the whole issue of tariffs and things like that. So he's justifying all these things at the moment, and since we are used to this, I think tomorrow or day after you will find a different rant. Something maybe a little more positive than other side. On the flip side, you have a new American ambassador coming to India, who seems to be a right-hand man of Mr. Trump himself. So obviously the deep state and those who otherwise also matter are also looking at the potential of a return of the Indo-US relationship to good old times.
Before I open it up, General Hasnain, you mentioned the new ambassador, Sergio Gore, who's been announced, but he's also the envoy for all of South and Central Asia. So the jury's right now out. Is this a patch-up move? Is it a reinforcement of the hyphenation of India and Pakistan? And remember that announcement was made well before we saw the power huddle at the SCO, India, Russia, China, and well before we saw Putin actually go on record in a rare public statement of this kind when he said, you cannot talk to India like this. So, whatever Gore was going to be deployed for, Trump may also be doing his own little recalculation after this sulky post.
I agree with you. That is very much possible. That the events of the last week have taken this entire issue in a slightly different direction. But I don't think that situation has still gone overboard completely. And remembering the fact that if you are putting a envoy here in South Asia to be the overall, like an assistant secretary of state virtually, and you are choosing him to be in Delhi. So obviously you're giving Delhi that importance. Otherwise, you could have very well chosen under the current circumstances to put him in Islamabad and say that from there you will do. That would be actually the last word on this. I mean, the whole thing would have gone overboard completely. But he's chosen Delhi. Mr. Gore will still come to Delhi, and hopefully things will be on the mend.
Ambassador Sajjanhar, if I may bring you in, I was just telling somebody, I'm not a big fan personally of investing too much in China. I think we have to be on our guard with China all the time, given what's happened in Operation Sindoor, given that we're not yet completely back to status quo ante post Galwan in the Himalayas. But one thing is clear. If the images out of China had not been what they were at the SCO Summit, if we had not seen Modi and Putin taking a limo ride together, if we can show that picture, or if we hadn't seen the power huddle of the three leaders, I don't think we would have got Western media to take notice of this story. Western media suddenly woken up. Otherwise, this relationship was not getting the news it deserved. The decline in this relationship. We would not have got Trump to react this way. So somewhere is a tactical move. And I'm not saying India's decisions to go for Prime Minister to go to SCO is only guided by Trump. But whatever this multipolarity is that we are reinvesting in, somewhere is a tactic it seems to have worked. It has trolled Trump, for lack of a better word. It has riled him up.
No, absolutely. Thank you very much, Barkha, for having me. You are very right. I think it has rattled Trump. It has rattled the White House. It has rattled the Western media. Maybe not, so much Europe, because you would have seen that Ursula von der Leyen and Costa, they called the Prime Minister, and they have been talking as to how relationship can be taken forward, how we need to take forward the EU-India FTA. But as far as Mr. Trump is concerned, I totally agree with you. As it is, I think if those 25% or 50% tariffs had not been imposed by Trump on India, I think still Prime Minister Modi would have gone to Tianjin, because it was necessary for us. It's a strategic necessity for us, Barkha, that we have to take the process that started in October last year in Kazan. We have to take it forward because we want peace and tranquility on a border. There are problems. The border is a problem. Pakistan is a problem. Trade is a problem. There are many other minor problems. But you cannot resolve those problems without talking. So there has to be some sort of normalization that, needs to be done. And Wang Yi was in town and he had made some positive noises. So it had to be taken from there. But I think once Trump imposed those tariffs, then it became, no-brainer that Prime Minister Modi had to go. And I think it was all choreographed. That having been said, one image, one picture does not an alliance or a partnership make. As it is, our relationship with Russia is strong, whether it is on defense or some of the other items. Energy is recent, but nuclear energy has been there for a long time. So our relationship with Russia is strong, but as far as China is concerned, I think it was principally tactical. Now, last word coming to Mr. Trump. Mr. Trump believes in speaking in extremes. Either it is all black or it is all white. And he doesn't understand the shades of gray. in a positive way I'm speaking about, and the nuances of diplomacy and foreign policy. So I think his message that you have read out, I think that is extreme. India has not been lost. India has been having these 2+2 intersessional dialogue with them, with the US. India has been having these exercises in Alaska with them. And I think we are looking at all the noises coming out from India and New Delhi are positive that we would like to mend this relationship as we go forward.
Thanks, Ambassador. Let me bring in Padma, in fact. Padma, I agree with Ambassador. It's, General Hasnain always says we're fully in the age of gray zone warfare. And in this gray zone warfare, Trump doesn't understand gray on the palette. There is almost an adolescent quality to how he tends to react. And this particular post, this is the kind of post that somebody would write after a breakup, after they were dumped by somebody that they had better expectations for. Like I said, it's a jilted lover's post. And it is without any acknowledgement. It is acting as if Trump did nothing, to get us to the point at which we are. And what really amazes me, I was on a Piers Morgan show, and I'll maybe try and play a clip from it later. One of the US generals, General Hasnain, this will interest you also, a gentleman called General Kimmett. He served in the Bush administration. He actually said to me, India is so arrogant. And then I reacted. But it makes me feel that till this moment in China, a lot of the Americans didn't understand what was at stake. Padma, you think they do now?
I'm not so sure about the Americans in general, whether they know what's at stake or not. I think they certainly know what's at stake, going by by what Trump is doing and the almost horrified reactions that these past weeks have been evoking, especially in the Western media, especially in the American media. I was very surprised indeed, even on the Piers Morgan show that you refer to, at the sheer consternation with which these pictures of Prime Minister Modi and Putin and Xi Jinping were greeted. I mean, normally India doesn't enjoy that kind of attention in the Western media, as you pointed out. Just to get back to what General Hasnain had said, this hyphenation of the incoming ambassador of the United States to all of South and Central Asia. I find that really interesting because that has not been the case so far. We all know that countries like Sri Lanka perhaps hyphenated with the Maldives at the max, but that was a different issue. Right now, they enjoy enormous importance and enormous attention because of their China sprawl and because of the presence of China in the Indian Ocean. So I'm not so sure whether it is to downplay Delhi's importance by making Delhi, all of South and Central Asia, or to upgrade Delhi's importance. That remains to be seen. Back to your question, I'm wondering really, Barkha, whether the SCO, because yes, like Ambassador pointed out, we had to go to the SCO. We are part of the organization. It is in the interim the largest, certainly the largest Indo-Pacific organization. And we have to diversify our interests and our especially in light of our security. But whether this SCO visit was more for the optical effect and less for the actual results, there's no doubt that the optics worked. Whether they yield results or not, I think that will depend on many things. The weight, the meaning of what was discussed there, if at all anything was discussed with both Russia and China. Were commitments made, even if only verbal commitments in passing? I doubt it. If so, if they were made, on what issues? De-escalation along the borders, yes, we hear that was one of the topics discussed in the bilateral. But how about a resupply of Russian defense spare parts, which was on the back burner for a while? Continuation of purchasing Russian oil? And if so, what were the trade-offs? Surely there are trade-offs, there are no free lunches. What may have been trade-offs for India? What may have India promised or insinuated at promising in return? If Chinese investment, for instance, is to be allowed back into India, in which sectors, and how will it affect India's indigenous manufacturing, and so on and so forth. So I don't believe that the bilaterals at the SCO went that far. As Ambassador said, I think this was more for the optics of it. And the optics, yes, they were primarily a show of solidarity, bonhomie, a signal to President Trump. And I think as far as that is concerned, they certainly worked and they had the desired effect.
I do agree with you on the signals working, but I'm interested in General Hasnain and Ambassador coming on whether they were only signals or whether there has been a reset in how India will approach relations with the United States going forward. Meanwhile, MEA spokesperson Randhir Jaiswal being asked to respond to Trump's lament on losing India and Russia to deep, dark China, the deep, dark China with whom Trump is also trying to cut a deal, FYI, has said that I have no comments to offer on this post at this time. I want to bring you in, General Hasnain. You know, in the beginning, when Trump was ranting after Operation Sindoor, there were a lot of people, including supporters of the government, who said, you know, our diplomats need to be less formal. We are living in Trump's age. We cannot respond in the old way anymore. I have to say the old way has proven to have value because Trump has gone on and on and on and on, 40, 50, I don't even know how many times about the credit he wanted for Op Sindoor. Peter Navarro has been downright insulting. And our diplomats, our government has not bitten the bait. And they have not responded. You know, they've done a Michelle Obama. When they go low, we go high, or we keep quiet. Some people thought, nahi chup rehna chahiye. You cannot keep quiet. But over time, I'm beginning to see the merits of not having gone into a tutu meme with these guys.
I 100% agree with you, Barkha. I think our diplomacy is old world. And I'm sure Ambassador Sajjanhar will stand by that. Is completely old world. And that old world stands its place in crises of these kind. I don't think there is anything majorly happening with China and Russia. With Russia, our relationship has always been stable. There is no problem. With China, nothing majorly is immediately going to take place. We are making overtures. These are good things which are happening, improvement of relations, optics happening. Something which a lot of people are forgetting. Exercise Yudh Abhyas is still taking place with the United States and Alaska. Last week, it is still going on. While all the rants are going on, exercise Yudh Abhyas is still on. Right? Exercise Malabar has not been cancelled. Right? So, military to military relationship is on. As far as General Kimmeth, is it Kimmeth, the person who spoke? He is concerned. Let me just remind you about the Indo-US in military-to-military relationship. It all started in 1991, came back all over with General Kicklighter when he came to India. Since then, we've gone miles ahead. But at the base of it, the American armed forces always prefer their relationship with Pakistan. Because it goes back to the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, Cold War period completely. All the equipment is with Pakistan. It's American equipment which has been used by them. While there's Chinese equipment, there's also old American equipment. The Indians still stand by everything Russian. We are going back to buy the 7 S-400 again. We are saying, oh my God, these 3-4 regiments have really delivered in Op Sindoor. We want more S-400s. The moment an American hears S-400, his ears prick up and, you know, it goes bonkers completely after. So this is the reason why all these rants keep coming from the American armed forces also, while our relationship of cooperation, training, etc. continues. We got to know how to keep both our legs in different boats and continue to sail.
And I think we're doing a fine job of that at the moment, Ambassador Sajjanhar. But I think there's also some reset. You know, I think Jai Shankar, after meeting the Germans, he made a very interesting comment. He said predictability is at a premium today. You know, very clear comment on Trump's volatility. And he said multipolarity and strategic autonomy is where it's at. And I think a lot of people felt that India had tilted. I won't say had ever joined the American camp, but was tilting towards America. Do you believe that, you know, if you were to imagine it as a springboard, if India was slightly leaning towards America, it's kind of ramrod straight in the center again, and it will now be deeply transactional and calculating with all nations going forward?
Barkha, excellent question. Let me say, you know, I don't think we had only tilted. We had gone quite a way towards the United States. I think India had made this assessment that if we want to get to Viksit Bharat 2047, you know, our bet on that is the United States. If I want technology, I'm not going to get technology from Russia or from China. The only source of technology is from the United States. If I want capital, if I want a market, My diaspora is there, 4 million people who are there, and they are quite influential, prosperous, etc. So I think we had made our decisions slowly and gradually after Bill Clinton came to India in March 2000 that, we were going ahead with the United States. The second part is that right now also you see what Mr. Piyush Goyal said yesterday. You see what, the noises. We have not produced our local version of a Peter Navarro or of a Scott Besant. We have been very respectful. We are not,
Yeah.
coming to the other question that you said, is that the new form of diplomacy that we should engage in? And my point is not at all. I think we are doing very well. We are not into the business of gang wars. We are not into the business of fist fights and street fights. So I think we have to behave because these are relationships are, again, as you said, Dr. Jaishankar said, are on predictability, are on reliability, are on trust, are on confidence. And by trading charges in the public, you don't get trust. The other is, I think this was a signal. The photos coming out of Tianjin were a signal to the United States, particularly, not so much to the West. United States, we have options. So, don't push us too hard. We have options. And I think that was the message that we gave. But if you say it was a reset, I will not agree. It was a very cautious rapprochement. It was very cautiously we were moving forward. And, we did announce that visa issuance, direct flights, Kailash Mansarovar. We've been speaking about it for a long time, but now it came from the mouth of the Prime Minister. And I think what Wang Yi had said, when he was in Delhi, that this tunnel boring machines and rare earth magnets and fertilizers. So let's see, I think hopefully that will come through. The last point, Barkha, I want to make is that, the timing of this conversation was 20 minutes. 20 minutes talking, 20 minutes translation. It went on to about 50, 55 minutes. All problems between countries like India and China, that were being mentioned, you can't resolve in this. Basically, I think at the highest level, you give the direction. And that is where you ask your External Affairs Minister, your NSA, etc., to take the relationship forward. So I think it was for messaging. It was trying to, again, settle the ground. What happened started in Kazan, taking that process forward, because the message would have been very wrong if Mr. Modi had not gone there. That means we are not interested in taking the process forward. And that is not our intention. We need basically peace, tranquility, and stability on the border.
Thanks, sir. Before Padma comes, we just have some more details coming in from the MEA response, not biting the bait on Trump's post on losing India to China, but reacting to Navarro in a very controlled manner. I think Ambassador Sajjanhar was just saying India doesn't believe in speaking like Navarro does. India doesn't believe in gang wars and street fight level of brawling, which is really what Navarro has been doing. Let me actually just change the banner here so we all know what we're talking about. So here, let me read this out. We have seen the inaccurate and misleading statements made by Mr. Navarro, and obviously we reject them. We have spoken about this earlier as well. This relationship between the United States and India is very important for us. I read this out because please note the contrast in tonality between how India is responding and how the US is responding. Jaiswal goes on to say both our countries share a comprehensive global strategic partnership, which is anchored in our shared interests, democratic values, robust people-to-people ties. This partnership has weathered several transitions and challenges. We remain focused on the substantive agenda that our two countries have committed to, and we hope the relationship will continue to move forward. And he also goes on to draw attention to what General Hasnain, you were mentioning, a joint military exercise is underway in Alaska. A few days ago, there was a 2+2 meeting. Talks between both countries are going on. Now, Padma and General Hasnain, let's get reactions. I think it's so important that Navarro, he's been shown his place, but the tonality of the American president, Padma, and the tonality of the Indian government, it's chalk and cheese.
Absolutely. I agree with whatever's been said so far. In fact, I wanted to add on a lighter note that, we can even get cheeky about it, but very classily cheeky. For instance, I think Foreign Minister Jaishankar recently said that when he was asked, how can you hobnob with the Russians and the Chinese and also strike a relationship with the United States, he said that, you can go for a walk and chew gum at the same time. So, even on, we've stayed classy even when we've been flippant. I'm somewhat skeptical about the consternation coming specifically out of countries of, say, the European Union and others, Barkha, because I'm not sure if they're really being empathetic and appreciative of India or merely pouncing gleefully on an opportunity to show up Trump, because they all have their major problems with Trump, as the chief culprit who destroyed relations with India for the West as a whole. But having said that, SCO or not, the doors to the United States, as everyone's pointed out, have to remain open. They will remain open. After all, we export, I think, something like $90 billion worth of goods to them, whereas it's only about $4 or $5 billion to Russia, for instance. But what if, for some reason, Trump is as unpredictable as he has been, and those tariffs are lifted either under pressure from the Supreme Court or from any other avenue? How seriously do we take him? That's the next big question,
I think that's a great question.
And then what will happen to commitments made, if any, and I doubt any commitments were made, but if even verbally in passing, if any commitments were made in Tianjin, what happens to those? How do we tread the tightrope on both fronts while continuing to nurture and to reestablish relationship with the United States, no matter how much it may have been damaged and no matter how long it will take? That is, for me, a very important question right now. But I, just wanted to say that I think the most interesting thing for me in these developments is that the new era of aligned non-alignment has dawned, or non-aligned alignment, whichever way you want to see it.
Yeah.
India will claim that it never really veered from that middle path, but others will see it differently depending on which side of the new blocks that you're on.
Well, Ambassador Sajjanhar just said that we had done more than leaning. He felt that we had calculated that our interests lay more with the United States, and today we have recalibrated our moves on that global chessboard. But I do want General and Ambassador to respond to Padma's excellent question. Suppose, because Trump is so unpredictable, General Hasnain, suppose 3 months later, he's written, I have lost India, and he's doing this whole sort of hand-wringing, high kind of act, melodrama. Suppose 3 months later he gets some excuse to backpedal from this, and it's back to Modi's a great guy, he's my friend, we've sorted out our differences. How are we plotting these moves? It is a tightrope. And by the way, there's another scenario. He's right now calling China deep dark. We have lost India to deep dark China. He desperately wants to cut a deal with China. So that can also happen. We are dealing with some very opacity in China and absolute, instability in the American leadership. Both ways, it's a challenge.
Firstly, Barkha, I must compliment the Indian Ministry of External Affairs, whose representative is here very much with us, Ambassador Ashok, Sajjanhar, for their maturity. You see, unlike the Indian media, many times I'm not talking about us, I'm not talking about print media, but I'm just talking of the street media. Unlike the Indian street level media, which has a habit of getting emotional and, tutu memes and things like that, the overall Indian political community, if you see across the board, if you see the Indian print media, everyone has remained very, very stable in this entire game. And that gives one clear indicator that it takes much more to upset a relationship than a few rants by a president or a head of state. There is nothing permanent in this. I don't see this going 3.5 years from now, and Mr. Trump may wish to take it 3.5 years. I don't think it will go beyond the 3.5 years. After all, policy is not made just by one man. Ultimately, it is national interest. It is academia. It is diplomacy. It is the military community. Lots and lots of people get together who ultimately make policy. So I am quite certain that Mr. Trump, although feeling extremely hurt or his responses coming out of emotives and that kind of a thing at the moment, will see reason in the near future. his own staff, his own advisors will perhaps be able to talk up to him or talk down to him, or whichever way, to make him see reason. National interest at the moment is not in the direction in which he's taking American foreign policy.
Absolutely. Ambassador, if you want to respond to Padma's question, again, more details coming in from Randeep Jaiswal, the MEA spokesperson, on the Quad. Government continuing to say we see the Quad as a valuable forum for discussion. The Leaders Summit is scheduled through diplomatic consultations. Now, this is important because you have the New York Times reporting that Trump has cancelled his plans to come for the Quad. Also, with the rupture between America and India being what it is, the value of the Quad is unclear. The SCO has overtaken the Quad. Last year, we were in the exact opposite situation. Please remember, last year, this time, or just before this time, the SCO was taking place in Pakistan. And, we were all thinking, SCO ka kya fayda hai? It's got two countries that we're so inimical to our interests. So I agree with General Hasnain, nothing is permanent. Not in politics, not in geopolitics. That said, has something been reset in terms of how we will approach leaning towards any bloc, any superpower? Has that changed?
Yeah, Barkha, let me come to a couple of points that have been made. One is what Padma mentioned about non-aligned alignment or aligned non-alignment. I don't think either of the two would be adequate to describe where India is or where India is going forward. I think it has been repeated many times. We are in a position of multi-alignment. And multi-alignment really does not mean that the strength and the dynamism and the depth of my relations with all my partners is going to be the same. So that is what I meant when I said that, the depth expanse of our relationship with the United States is much greater than we have with Russia, for instance, with whom we have good relations. There it is a limited element partnership, but it is an essential partnership. It's a necessary partnership. Also, as far as China is concerned, meaning it is nowhere close. Here we have a $45 billion trade surplus. With China, we have a $100 billion deficit. You look at the number of, the Indian diaspora that is there in the United States, technological transfers that are taking place. There are so many areas, 60 groups in which we are talking. It's a comprehensive global strategic partnership. If you mention anyone that, we have a strategic partnership with China, I think there will be very many raised eyebrows. So we are in a stage of multi-alignment, but of course, the strength of our relationship with different countries is quite different, and we see that. So in that sense, the other question was the commitments that have been made in Tianjin. You see, in this 20-25 minute long conversation, there are no sort of, hardbound commitments in my view, and definitely not about your relations with a third country. It would be on how to normalize your relations with China, and that would be taking baby steps, taking small steps, very cautiously we move forward. And I think that is what has been announced, and maybe as far as border management is concerned, there would be some more of it. The one in terms of how do we take our relationship with America going forward, if Mr. Trump were to say tomorrow that, okay, he will not accept that he's committed a mistake, but he says, okay, I'm going to sort of, make up with India. I think those doubts, I remember I was in Washington, D.C., Barkha, when we were negotiating with the United States immediately after our nuclear test. Next steps to strategic partnership we were negotiating. We were also negotiating the India-US nuclear deal, civilian nuclear deal. So it was always that question was, can the United States be trusted? I think that question will come to hover over our heads, over our minds again. But slowly and gradually, I think we have to separate tariffs and trade from the rest of the relationship, which is a very vast relationship. Barkha.
Let me bring in Padma for a brief interjection with one added comment of my own. And that is that Trump has now not just had this lament, but he's also asking the Europeans to stop buying refined oil from India. Now, please remember that a $15 billion worth of oil imports go from India to Europe. We buy the crude from Russia. There's Russian oil that's been made into such a bogey. We refine it, and the European nations then buy it from us. Petroleum products, by the way, are exempt from Trump's 50% tariff. So, I mean, I have never for one moment believed that the purchase of Russian oil has anything to do with what's happening. But given that Trump now wants to put pressure on Europe, don't buy oil from India. He's even raised this in his Supreme Court petition on, because remember, he needs the Supreme Court go ahead on his tariff policy. And, we've seen European leaders sit like school children in the Oval Office. I mean, You think Europe's going to get pulled into this?
Is that a question to me?
It is.
I don't think so, because I think where Europe stands vis-a-vis the United States is very different. It's in a different place from where India stands vis-a-vis the United States, at least from Trump's perspective, if nothing else. And the Europeans are far too involved in the war on the front. They're far too involved in NATO. They're an essential and integral part of NATO. So I think that relationship will play out differently from the one that Trump is essaying to destroy with India. I just wanted to get back to what Ambassador Sajjanhar said, multi-alignment. I find that interesting because multi-alignment, to my mind, is also a form of alignment, but we won't, split hairs over that. And yes, I agree. I also agreed with Ambassador Sajjanhar. I also said that no big decisions could have possibly been taken at the SCO. To my mind, the most interesting position while we're talking about alignment, non-alignment, multi-alignment, that is occupied in this new world order, if you like to call it that, is that of China. I mean, China has not only emerged as the third pole, if you like, if you look at traditional Russia versus West as the two poles, but one that also straddles both universes, both in terms of trade as well as in terms of strategy. I mean, its BRO is a prime example of how it does both in one stroke, even though enthusiasm for the BRO has been waning. But so there's no doubt that China permeates and pervades and prevails over all Western countries. They may say what they like, but it will take them a very, very long time. I mean, including Trump's latest comments on China, it's going to take them a very long time to get out of that dependency if they ever manage to do so. And as a final comment from my part, unless you ask me a further question, is that I think it will take India a much longer time, even longer time, and much more discipline, in us as a people to take China's place. I mean, right now, given these very dismaying domestic scenes that are playing out, flooding, homelessness, urban decay everywhere, that we have repeatedly seen over the last 75 years, Barkha, I have my doubts. It seems like that is not going to happen in a hurry. So two things: China's new position in this newly aligned or realigned or multi-aligned world. That's an interesting space to watch. Barkha.
Thanks, Padma. Before I take final comments from all of you, it was an interesting experience on this Piers Morgan show. General Hasnain, there were two questions for me. One I've shared with you, General Kimmett. He said Indians are arrogant, but he also said that I hope you all know that Trump and Asim Munir are getting along really well, and that should give you pause. And the other thing was a question from Piers Morgan that between India and China, who would India choose? And I don't have time to play out both clips. They're both up on our platform, but I'll play out what I said about Asim Munir in response to the US General, and then we'll come back for last comments. Take a look.
Barkha Dutt, I can see you nodding repeatedly there. A very unusual experience for Dave Smith, I think, when he's talking. But you were agreeing with what he was saying.
Well, the essence of it, yes, about America being a big bully and that not working with many countries, including my own. General Kimmett made a point about the new cozy love fest between Pakistan's Field Marshal Asim Munir and the Trump administration and said India should take pause. India has noticed this. So first of all, if you want to make an argument about authoritarians on display at the China military parade, well, Pakistan's Field Marshal was there as well. Pakistan was the only country where the army chief had to actually attend all the meetings alongside the so-called elected prime minister, because we basically know Pakistan's army runs Pakistan. So that's not a great point about authoritarians and democracy. Secondly, I'm not sure how many people know that Trump's family has a business link with the Crypto Council in Pakistan. And many people in India, and there's been a lot of American reporting on this as well, believe that Trump's newfound love for Pakistan in his second term has something to do with business dealings. And we know for Trump, business matters. The third point I'd like to make that none of you have spoken about, we're all acting like this is all about trade, it's only about trade. Listen, India has been slapped with a punishment, right? The 25% of the 50% is a penalty because India buys Russian oil. China buys more oil from Russia than India does. China hasn't been slapped with that penalty because China has choke points with the United States of America that clearly Trump believes India does not. So first, there's hypocrisy there. But secondly, I don't even think this is about trade. I think Trump is having a massive sulk because Pakistan thinks he should get the Nobel. He wanted India to make the same point in public. India refused. He wanted India to say, thank you, Trump. You helped India end the war, the 4-day military conflict with Pakistan. India said, look, you made the phone calls, but we did our own thing. We ended this on our own terms. He made the point about credit for ending that war about 40, 50 times till Indians were so bored with his claims, we stopped counting. So is this about Trump's ego being bruised or is it about trade? Is it about Trump's ego? I was calling it a sulk yesterday. I didn't know that he'd have an even bigger sulk today. Let's take last comments. Between US and China, that's the question Morgan asked me. I said our natural affinity was to America, but the way Trump had behaved, we weren't going to lean any which way, I think, for a long time to come. I'm going to take last comments. I'll start with you, Padma, then Ambassador Sajjanhar, and then General Hasnain. Quick last words. Padma.
I must say that I do have, I think like many, many Indians who have studied in the United States, who've lived in the United States, I do have an affinity for the United States, and it's a great country, it's a great people, it's a great philosophy, and I think, and we ought to mend fences with the US, and I think we will. Having said that, our relationship with China will always be a different one. As you said, Zara Hatke. We also share a troubled border, no matter what de-escalatory measures may have been assured or even promised. Things have changed many, many times over the last 75 years. Many assurances have been made. Many have been they've gone back on. I also am looking at the relationship between the PLA and the central Chinese leadership in a new light ever since the purges in May, and much of the commentary that has been on offer on those events. So I'm not so sure that I think China and India can be friends and good neighbors perhaps, but I don't think we'll ever be as close to China as India can and has been and will be to the United States of America.
So, Ambassador, since you said that we had leaned a little too much to the US and we found our balance again, there are many concerns with China. There's China's support to Pakistan in Operation Sindoor. There's the fact that we're not back at status quo ante at the line of actual control. There's the fact that there's thousands of our troops standing eyeball to eyeball with Chinese troops as we speak. There is the haunting history of Galwan. There is China blocking India's resolutions against the Jamaat-ud-Dawa and other terror groups at the UN. There is the Chinese dominance of our markets that is killing many of our small businesses. There are many issues with China. So while I think these images at the SCO have served their purpose, we've got to move with extreme caution with China.
Yes, thank you for laying out that land so very clearly and so very comprehensively and effectively, Barkha. I never said that, we have moved, tilted more towards the United States and we have come to the center. No. I have always been a very strong votary of strong partnership with the United States. I have said it is the most consequential relationship as far as we are concerned. In the last administration, Biden himself said, Kurt Campbell himself said that this partnership with India is the most important partnership for the United States in the 21st century. Whatever Trump has done, he has created ripples, he has created hiccups, he has created wrinkles. But I don't think the underlying strategic convergences in terms of national interest that has been disturbed in any significant manner. So when you ask me who will you choose? Will you choose China? Will you choose United States? I will say I will choose India. And India has to work together both with the United States and, you have, and all the other panelists, General Hasnain and Padma, both have articulated it very beautifully what our strengths are as far as connecting with the United States and taking forward our partnership, and what the challenges are. So I think while the most consequential partnership is with the United States, the most formidable challenge is with China for all the reasons that you mentioned. But we will continue to look inwards, see what our interests are, and on that basis, determine our relations with the United States, with China, also with Russia and with Europe. So I think it will have to be, the whole system is in a flux. So, you cannot say that this is the way forward, this is the path that I'm going to adopt. We will have to respond the way things emerge and evolve. Barkha, who could have thought just 2 months ago on the 17th of June that things are going to take this turn when Mr. Trump will be putting on Truth Social that we've lost India to the deep, dark alleys of China? I don't think anyone. So, whatever the changes, we have handled, as Randhir Jaswal said, we have handled such challenges earlier. And I'm sure we will very competently and effectively handle other challenges that come our way in future.
Well said, Ambassador, on choosing India, and I think that's exactly it. I think this binary is a false one. It's not about choosing one pole or the other. This is the way the West presents the question. I don't think this is the way India sees this at all. General Hassan, let me give you the last word here. Where does this go from here? I think you're quite right in saying that nothing is permanent. And that said, we are at a precarious point from a security perspective. The world is changing. All of this may make China stronger. Doesn't necessarily give us succor to have a very dominant China, right? So we've got to play this carefully. Last word to you, sir.
Thank you, Barkha. Firstly, Barkha, I wish to compliment you on the excellent articulation of the Indian standpoint in that program, right?
Thank you, sir.
And I hope that kind of a program, there are more like you and many more like perhaps some of us here who need to go on such programs, number one. Number two, this program itself, I hope someone has the sense to play this back to the United States. They will see what a sense of middleness, one should say. We are right in the middle. We are not looking at any extremes. Every one of us have expressed an opinion which says the United States has been a great friend of India, and we are not going to just work towards losing that friendship. Having said that, to come back to one specific issue we discussed, will the Europeans agree not to buy oil from India? I will say this is on one reason, this is a pushback from the Europeans can be expected. You see the pushback they're doing on Israel now, right? I mean, enough is enough. They take it up to a point, then they don't act as school children thereafter. So I don't expect the European leaders to actually not push back on this. And the last one of the most important aspects, I still feel, the United States should realize one thing. If they do a poll today in India, a public opinion, the United States will still emerge as one of the most popular countries in India. You go to Pakistan and try that poll and see the street poll and see what happens. Can an American walk clearly and comfortably in the streets of Lahore or Rawalpindi like that? Everyone, the ugly American is very, very evident to everyone in Pakistan. So this is a natural relationship. When I fly to any of these countries, I feel safest, happiest landing in Washington or New York. I shouldn't say it, but I'd love to go to Moscow, I'd love to go to Beijing, but one doesn't feel that kind of a comfort level as you feel when you go to the United States. I think that's the sentiment which needs to be conveyed by us in some manner or the other. Today is the world of information warfare and narrative control, as I always keep saying. We have to push back and tell them this. Make it very evident to them. one leader coming at one point of time in history cannot upset a relationship of this kind.
Well, the fact is that leader has 3 more years in office, and there is also, what happens is you get burnt, and then you tend to be a little cautious the next time around. But by the way, 93% of the Mojo audience believes that India must not compromise but must continue negotiating with the United States of America. So I think Indian sentiment is quite clear. It's across ideologies, it's across political camps. It's about us being a sovereign, self-respecting nation. It really is as simple as that you don't get to tell us what to do, who to buy our oil from, whether we should sit, whether we should stand, whether we should kaan pakdo and do push-ups. Those days, if they ever existed, are over. But yes, there's no question that a year ago, if you'd said, do you trust China, do you trust America, everybody would have said, we trust America. And that's the trust that Trump has damaged and hopefully not irretrievably broken. We leave it there. Thank you so much, General Hasnain, Padma Sundarji, Ambassador Sajjanhar. Always a pleasure. Thank you, and see you all soon.
Thank you.
It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.